Hello everyone and welcome to my first YouTube video. Grab yourself a cup of tea. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A of lots of questions that you've all asked me on Instagram and TikTok, and I just thought YouTube was such a good platform for me to be able to create longer form videos that can thoroughly explain a lot of the points that it's hard for me to make in Instagram stories and in 1-minute videos on TikTok. So I really hope you enjoy it and subscribe, and thank you so much for being here. There's a few questions that have asked me to be anonymous, so I'm not going to be sharing people's handles, but I'll just read out the questions as they wrote them. What was your starting weight? I'm scared to share mine. My starting weight was 17 stone 13 pounds, and for those of you that don't know, I am 5'9", and at my lowest weight I got down to 14 stone 11, and that was where I was at my peak. I felt so good in myself then, and that's where I'm hoping to get back to. I'm currently 15 stone 13, having started the year at 16 stone 10, I believe. So we're getting back there. How do you keep your motivation? I find it so hard to stay on track. By the way, I'm reading from another phone. Okay, with motivation, something that I've had to come to learn, which is so difficult at first, is that motivation does not exist. The only thing that makes you get out of bed and go for a walk at 7 in the morning, in the freezing cold, in the rain, in the sun, is discipline. Motivation does not exist, and that's a good thing to know. If you can crack this now, this is going to help you, because the problem with a lot of weight loss journeys is that we start them and then 3 weeks in we're not feeling great and we don't feel like there's been any difference, so we quit because we think it's not working. But the point is that it's gonna take at least 2 to 3 months before you start seeing any changes in your body. So you need to be able to rely on that discipline. And for me, that comes in the form of having weight loss trackers. I have like a notebook and I write things out. I am slowly trying to move those over so that I can put them on my Etsy and you guys can have access to them, because I've just been writing them down for all this time. But that is what helps the most. And also planning out your meals. You need to sort of have an infrastructure, if you like, that stops you from making decisions based on that little niggle in the back of your mind, or the thought that you're really tired and you just can't be bothered to cook. Batch cooking your food and setting out a schedule of when you're going to fit in workouts is the best way to keep disciplined, because you can't rely on motivation. So the next question is, I'm on a calorie deficit and I'm going to the gym, but I'm not losing anything. Any ideas? This one's a really hard one without knowing everything about you, but I went through a period last year where I was in a calorie deficit, I was working out consistently, and I wasn't losing anything. I was doing everything as I should have been. But you know what? I lost inches. And this is where it's really hard to try to change your relationship that you have with the scales, because we've been drilled since we were teenagers looking in Cosmos magazine about the importance of the weight on the scales. But that is not important. What's important is that you are losing fat. So you really need to be taking measurements. And I recommend for everyone to start their journey by taking pictures, taking measurements, and checking in on those more than you are the number on the scale, because that can just demotivate you so much. Another thing as well is making sure that you're drinking enough water and that you are eating enough calories. Too many of us start these weight loss journeys and strip our calories without actually understanding what our body needs, not what some generic diet on the internet has said that you need. So double check that you're actually eating enough. On my Instagram stories, I have a highlight that has a TDEE calculator and also a BMR calculator, and it explains exactly how to work out the amount of calories that you should be eating. I've hit a brick wall with my weight loss. It's never ending. Any tips? Depends how long you've been on your journey, really. I hit a wall and I actually upped my calories for a while, and that sort of broke the cycle that I was in and allowed me to lose weight again. So maybe take a diet break, just 2 weeks where you eat at maintenance and then go back into a deficit. Because the problem is as well, when we're in a deficit, our body can become used to that. So just taking it back up to the maintenance, don't worry about the number on the scales, and then drop it back down. See if that helps with the little wall that you're in. Maybe increasing your steps a little bit. At the height of my journey, I was doing 15,000 steps a day, and that had been increased over time from like 6,000. So maybe increase your activity a little bit. But the main thing really is to just be consistent, and it will come. It feels like you're working so hard and you're not seeing any results, but it is happening. It just for whatever reason, and I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a fitness instructor, but from my own experience, I have watched myself doing exactly the same thing and not seeing any difference, and then all of a sudden the weight drops. How many calories are you on daily, and what's your average weekly loss? I'm going to be completely honest, my calories have been all over the place for the past couple of weeks, with me being sick and also just life getting in the way. But for a general rule, I like to keep my calories between 1900 and 1600. So I can have low days and high days. That's not to say that one day I might have 2200 and another day I might have 1400. It really just depends. I think particularly for women, as your body goes through your menstrual cycle, there are times where you're going to be ravenous and nothing you eat is making you feel full, and there's going to be times where you just don't feel hungry at all. And I think it's really important to listen to your body on those days. So as a general rule, between 16 and 1900. And my average weight loss, I don't really know. Like when I was in the height of my journey, I lost 12 pounds the first month, 9 pounds the second, 6 pounds the third, and then I was averaging at about 2 to 3 pounds a month. And I was happy with that. For me, a loss is a loss. Whatever I can lose is great. And I have no doubt that this week I'm probably going to have gained, because my life has just been Lemsips and trying to eat toast to stop me from coughing. Next question. Hey, do you ever lower your calorie intake on certain days to allow flexibility at weekends? I don't specifically lower calories on particular days, but depending on how I feel, I try to zigzag my calories. I don't like the rigidity of I'm going to eat 1800 calories a day, because there are some days where I'm really hungry and some days where I'm not. So I zigzag my calories, and I would aim for having 2 low days and 2 high days and 3 medium days. So that might look like 2 days of 1500 and 3 days at 1700 and 2 days at 2000. And over the week, I mean, I haven't done the maths there, but over the week that will work out to be your weekly amount. I would always recommend to everyone to work out your calorie amount daily and then times it by 7 for the number of days in the week, and work out your calories based on the weekly amount, so that you can allow yourself to have some low days, have some high days, and some days in the middle. And that really helps you to stay on track. I had a lot of questions about how to get back on it, how to even get started, and so I thought I'd just give you a brief overview of what I think has worked for me and how I'm able to so easily get back on it these days. For me, the biggest tip that I can give you is organisation. I would really recommend planning every single element of your life and all of the hiccups that you might come up against. Honestly, I cannot even tell you how valuable it is to have strategies in place for those first couple of weeks, just while things don't feel easy. Because trust me, when you get into the journey and you're in the process, things become easier. It is only the first couple of weeks that you're going to really struggle, because everything feels really abnormal. One thing that I always refer back to is I actually used to be a smoker, and I haven't smoked now for about 6 or 7 years, probably even longer. When I quit, I used this app by a guy called Jason Vale, and one thing that I have carried with me for all of this time was a very small thing that he used as an analogy in his book, and I thought it was brilliant. And it was that when you buy a new car, if your indicator is on the opposite side that it used to be, and so every single time you're driving in your new car, you keep putting the window wipers on instead of indicating, you're going to be visibly infuriated by it. But you're not going to say, I'm sending the car back. You're going to be very aware of the fact that it is just your brain struggling to get over the habit that the indicators used to be on that side, and you'll wait until your body gets used to it. And that is the same with any new habits we try and form. It's going to be really easy in the start for you to feel stressed and reach for the packet of crisps, or feel like you don't have much time so you run in and get a sandwich. Breaking those habits is going to take time, and you need to be really compassionate with yourself about, you know, the struggles that you're going to be facing and how much of a difficult process it is. But that's not to say that you're failing. I think a lot of us put ourselves in this box where we say we have one little hiccup and that's it, we've ruined it. And that's not the case. This is a learning process. I am still not perfect. Far from it. I'm learning. And it just so happens that I have lost a considerable amount of weight, and because of losing that amount of weight, I now believe that I can do it. And I think once you all start proving to yourself that you can do it, which is another huge element, believing in yourself, then the whole thing gets a lot easier. But to start with, plan, plan, plan. Honestly, it will change the game. The last question that I'm going to answer for today's video is a pretty sensitive one, so I just want to say a trigger warning because I am going to be discussing binge eating. And I was asked, I'm struggling with binge eating, but no one knows I'm struggling. And I know this very well. And it was a question that I wanted to answer because I have struggled. I wouldn't say I do struggle anymore. Nowhere near as badly as I used to, and I have been very lucky to be able to get some help for it. So I just wanted to touch upon it because I understand this very well, and I suffered with binge eating from about the age of 12 or 13, and just wanted to offer a little bit of advice. Now, I am by no means equivalent to speaking with a therapist or a nutritionist, and I would heavily recommend that you should do that because there are people that can help you. For me, I saw a nutritionist and we worked through a lot of my emotional thoughts around food and how I turned to food when I was feeling stressed, when I was feeling anxious, and as a way to almost bury my feelings. For me, it was a relief to just sit with a bag of lots of food and mindlessly eat it and almost fill a void, an emotional void that felt like it was missing, and the feeling of being physically full almost made me forget about the feelings. Now that I'm a little bit older and I've gone through some therapy, I feel like I'm a lot better equipped to be able to deal with my emotions. As a sensitive person, I am heavily emotional and very sensitive. But I think the biggest thing that I learned through that was about not demonizing foods. One of the things we need to come to realise is that the diet industry is not there to help us. They make billions upon billions of pounds a year from overweight people who feel like they hate themselves and are really struggling with being overweight. So none of these teas or these silly fad diets that you see on the internet, unpopular opinion, but many of the mainstream diets that we see people using are not good for you. They demonise food groups. They demonise food in general. It is not normal to call a food a sin. That is just a marketing tool that has been used and they coin in on our misery. No food is bad for you if eaten in moderation. If you fancy a chocolate bar, have a chocolate bar. If you fancy a packet of crisps, have the packet of crisps. All your friends and family are eating in Chinese. Eat the damn Chinese, enjoy it, and then wake up tomorrow morning and start over again. It's really that simple. The problem is that we've been guilted, and this is a huge problem around binge eating, that we feel so much guilt that we then turn to food to try and bury the guilt. And you have to try and eliminate the guilt. And I know that sounds way easier said than done, and I know that it is because it's taken me years to be working through, and I'm still not there yet. I have probably binged about 3 times in the past 12 months, which is a huge improvement, but I'm still not perfectly there yet. At the point where I really tried to work through my issues with food, I did go on a diet break, and I would recommend that to everyone who is also struggling. It sounds counterintuitive because you really want to lose weight, but at the same time, you can't deal with your issues with food whilst obsessing over food. And let's face it, logging all of your calories on MyFitnessPal does become a little bit obsessive, as much as you try and make it not. So really taking a break from any form of food monitoring, if you like, is really going to help you in the long run. I took about a 3-month break, and in that time I gained about 1 stone back, and that would have been when you saw me go through the breakup last year. At that point, apart from the odd night of laziness and the odd takeaway, I had really come a long way in terms of my relationship with food. and a part of that was putting on a little bit of weight. I was fine with that. Nowadays, for me, my main struggles are purely out of laziness and the taste. I love a KFC. When I'm hungover, it's all I want. I love a McDonald's, and sometimes I just really can't be bothered. It's pure laziness. It's not for me anymore, the feeling of wanting that like comfort. I will be making more content on this, but I think the main point that I wanted to make is, first of all, look into intuitive eating, speak to somebody. There is help out there and it is nothing to be ashamed of. And also just offering you a little solidarity that you are not alone, because there are thousands upon thousands of people who struggle with it as well. And it's a really difficult and sometimes embarrassing topic to talk about. But that's why there is people like me who have no problem in discussing it. And I honestly really do understand how you feel and wish that I could give you a hug through the screen. Hopefully you found some of my answers to these questions really helpful. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you would like me to answer, and any type of videos that you think would be good on longer form content on YouTube. I have lots in store and I'm very excited to be creating on here again. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week.